Part 2 of the blood lecture will focus on the blood types and Rh factors. I expect you to know these, and this part has been taken out of the main lecture to make an easier review. Be able to compare the different blood types and relate it to inheritance. Well, we'll do that later in the class. If you are given a blood type, say AB negative, know what types it can donate to and what types it can accept. So humans have different blood types, and this is an antibody-antigen interaction. So basically, these are parts of the body that can recognize the self or recognize non-self. If an individual has type A on their erythrocytes, then they'll have anti-B antibodies, which will attack any type B that enters the body. And what happens when these attack is that they are going to go and bind to the glycoprotein, which we call B. And when they bind to this, they will clump some of these erythrocytes together and allow a macrophage to eat them. They will not bind to type A antigens because the body will not have anti-A. This means that the body can attack non-self but will not attack self. And here is the different types. You have antigen A, shown by these little purple hemispheres here. You have antigen B by these little green triangles. Or you have type O, which does not have the A or the B antigens. There is also type AB, and type AB has both A and B antigens. What these antigens are, I remind you, are glycoproteins that are expressed on the cell membrane of the red blood cells. These cells will produce plasma antibodies, and these antibodies will be anti-B if the type A individual, anti-A in the type B individual. They cannot produce any antibodies in the type AB because that would attack either A or B, and type AB has both A and B. In type O blood, there are antigens against A and antigens against B. This means that type O cannot accept any blood from someone who has type A because type O has anti-A antibodies. Type O cannot accept any blood from somebody with type B because type O has anti-B antibodies. This means type O cannot accept types A, type B, or type AB. However, since type O has neither B nor A antigens, it can be accepted by types A, B, and AB. We also have something called the Rh factor. And what the Rh factor is another type of glycoprotein present on the outside of the cell. Instead of the complexity of having A, B, or O, Rh factor is simply taken as positive or negative. Someone with O positive blood has type O blood with neither A nor B antigens and a positive for the Rh factor. So this individual is Rh positive even though they are type O. Someone who is O negative does not have any A antigens, does not have B antigens, and does not have Rh antigens on their erythrocytes. A special thing with the Rh factor that will not be tested in this class, but should be generally known for those going into prenatal care, is that if you have two individuals, let's say Greg and Shirley here, and Shirley is Rh negative, but Greg is Rh positive, and Greg's baby will then be Rh positive, because if you have even one copy of the positive antigen, you will be positive. So Greg and Shirley's baby is Rh positive. What happens is that Shirley naturally would produce anti-plus antibodies if she has been exposed to the plus factor. Since she has never been exposed to the plus factor, she normally does not produce anti-Rh antibodies. However, during birth, she is exposed to some blood from the baby. And since she's exposed to blood from the baby, she will then develop an immune reaction and anti-Rh antibodies against the blood of anyone with Rh positive. This can cause complications if later on she has another baby and that baby has type positive blood, type Rh positive blood, because her antibodies will attack that. This is kind of one of those special cases.
where initially she does not have anti-Rh antibodies, but when exposed to type-positive blood, she develops them and then her body will attack anything with Rh positive. The important thing to remember from the Rh factor is that it is the positive or the negative on the blood. So here we see some blood factors affecting donations. We actually put some antibodies down in a little smear, and then you put some blood on top of it. What you see with this agglutinated blood is that these are erythrocytes that have been bound together by the antibodies present on the little piece of paper. As you see, type O does not have the A nor B antigens, and thus the antibodies do not bind them. Type AB contains antigens A and B, and then anti-A and anti-B antibodies both will bind to it. So what does that mean? It means type A blood cannot take type B blood. Type B blood cannot take type A blood. Type AB can take all types of blood. Type O can take only O blood. And you add on to that the complexities of the Rh factor. Someone who is Rh positive can take positive blood or negative blood. So someone who is AB positive can take all types of blood. Someone who is O negative cannot take any type of blood. Someone who is type AB positive can only donate to someone who is AB positive. Someone who is O negative can donate to anyone, which is why AB positive is a universal acceptor and O negative is a universal donor. Now, it'd also be a good time to mention various blood disorders. So blood poisoning is seen here, where a bacterial infection has affected the capillaries and veins, and you can trace it as it goes towards the heart. This would be a good time for antibiotics. There's also anemia, which is a shortness of red blood cells seen as a low hematocrit. This can be due to kidney failure. It can be due to a hemolytic, which is something that is breaking down red blood cells. A poison or certain types of venom do this. It can be due, most commonly, to an iron deficiency. And then there is hemorrhagic anemia, which results when someone has bled a lot and lost a lot of blood. It is quicker to replace the plasma than it is to replace the red blood cells. The fastest way to replace red blood cells is to donate blood. And now, along with the lab, you will know what blood types can accept what blood types. I encourage you, go out and donate blood.